This is the screen that we use to do the walk-around. You can click on these circles to go directly to any of these stations, or you can use these arrows to go to the next or previous station. Now, the first thing I do in the real Comanche when doing a walk-around is I grab this handle and I lower the flaps. And when doing so, I expect to feel only perfectly smooth movement. If instead I feel any scraping or sticking or hear anything abnormal, that needs to be looked into before flying the airplane. So let's go to the next station and I'll show you how we do that. Now here we are at the right flap. Now typically what I'll do is I'll grab it with my hand and move it up and down, checking that it's tight and secure. Now let me show you what a flap shouldn't feel like. Just watch and listen very carefully. Hear that? That's not right. That's smooth here, but there, something is binding, something is sticking. And we can also see flaps pretty loose. So something's not quite right. And what I would do is I would call my mechanic and we would investigate. So let's do that over here. We're going to go to maintenance. And this is the airframe section. I'm going to click inspect. And there you can see the right flap is showing as yellow. If we click on it, well, you get some details. And it says there's an issue somewhere in the linkage to this flap. Something is wearing and scraping when moving it. It should be fixed now as a flap failure in flight is dangerous. That cannot be overstated. The idea of having one flap fail in flight is called a split flap condition. And typically that's going to happen when the most pressure is being exerted on the system. That would be in landing. So just try to imagine you're on a landing, your flaps are down, they are pushing hard into the wind, and if one of these flaps were to fail, were to pop up, you would have only seconds to react. Otherwise, you probably would end up being inverted and going right into the ground. So flaps are very, very important. Never, ever want to take any chances with the flaps in an aircraft. Okay, so let's move on. We're going to fix these guys. And let's go to the next station, aileron. There's a little bit of play there because in the aileron and flap system, you have cables and pulleys. So, little play, that's normal. This is exactly what it feels and sounds like to move the aileron. Tip tank. Tip tanks are awesome on so many levels. I'm going to add fuel here. I want you to listen very carefully. Just listen. Hear that? That's all the way up. Now I'm going to listen again. I'm going to take fuel out. I'm going to drain it. Hear that? Okay. That happens in the real Comanche. That's oil canning. That's basically the wing flexing a little bit, and some of the panels on the aircraft will oil can. They'll pop from one direction to another. That's normal. That's just part of flying with an aluminum framed airplane. So we're going to put this back in. Okay, we'll go to the next station. All right, so this is where we test the fuel in this right tip tank. We're using this jar to drain fuel and to test to see if there's any water in the fuel. Right here you'll see a drain. If there's water in this tank, water's heavier than fuel, it is going to end up settling right here over this drain. This is the low point. Well, let me overlay something here to show. Okay, and then typically around here is going to be where the fuel is being drawn, a little bit further away from where the water lies. This way, water will settle in this area and we can take the water out. Now, in this case, there's no water. That's fuel. It's blue. That's good. Now, I'm going to put a lot of water in this fuel system. Now, I just put some water in this tip tank and poured the rest in the right main tank. which is going to drain down to the lowest point down here that I'll show you in a minute. Now, water is clear. It's not blue like the fuel, so when I start draining, you're just going to see clear liquid, which will be water. And once all the water is out, you'll then see fuel start coming into the jar, which will appear on top. Okay, see? That's water, right? Now watch. Keep draining. There we go. See it? Water, fuel. Let's drain that. Just make sure. Good. Now I want to jump ahead here to this station. So all the water I put in that main tank has now ended up in here. Now if I were to start this engine, there's so much water in here, because I put a lot of water in there, that would be sucked up into the fuel lines and into the engine and probably completely kill the engine. There's so much water in this system, it'll kill the engine. That doesn't always happen. A certain amount of water can be ingested and it'll just make the engine run rough, and it might not quit. But we model all that stuff, which is so awesome, because if you get water anywhere in the system, you're using the real world ways of doing what we're doing now. So let's get rid of this water. A lot of water. See? Yeah, full jar. Told you, put a lot of water in the system, which isn't completely abnormal. I've had an airplane once that had a huge amount of water, and we filled probably 3 or 4 jars worth. So I put a huge amount of water. There we go. So finally got all the water. That was a lot of water. No doubt this engine would have quit completely. And that's that. But, all right, so let's keep going. We'll go to the next station. Here is the landing light. Now, what we can do with the landing light, if we want, we can use the controls menu here, and we can turn the right landing light on, and we can test it. That simulates us going into the cockpit and turning on the landing light. However, I don't typically turn the landing lights on doing a walk around, because first, I don't want to drain the battery. And secondly, you can actually see the landing lights, whether they're working from the cockpit. So let me show you that. And we spend some time on this. It's really neat. Also, I'm going to show you here. See how neat this is? I can move the tablet over here. So I'm going to go to controls, and I'm going to turn the landing light on. You can see it lighting up right there. And this looks really neat. Let me just change the time of day. There you go. And let's look over here. I'll turn this landing light on. So awesome. That is exactly what it looks like in the Comanche. Exactly how it illuminates the tip tanks. And got really nice bright lights in the Comanche. So I just wanted to show you that. So you don't really need to, even in the day, you can see a little bit of light from those landing lights. So let's go back to our time. And we'll go back to the walk around. I hope you can see how beautiful this tablet is. We're just zipping around the airplane, and this tablet is just the center of everything. So, here we go. Quite bright. All right, turn that off. And let's go to the next station. This is the tie-down station. Master artist Mihail Puto made these knots. Real knots, and you can hear the sound. That's actually pulling it through the Comanche loop. Okay, so let me actually, I want to shut that door because I'm going to have a shadow over here. I'm not going to be able to show you the fuel that well. Okay, so let's go back. Now, filling up the Comanche, this will probably be a little clearer from the other side. We have 15 gallons in here. I'm going to add fuel, and you'll see the fuel come up. And we're going to go right to the rim. You can see that's right to the top. Actually, I'm going to show you this on the other tank. So we'll get to that in a second. Let me put this back on. All right. this is where we can chalk it up. See? It's actually putting wheel chocks on the Comanche. Sounds and all. Okay. And we already checked this out. We drained that fuel, so we keep going on. Propeller, we're looking for any kind of nicks or abrasions on the propeller. We're looking for anything left in here that shouldn't be, like there could be a bird's nest or a rag or something. This is all clear. This all looks good. Go to the next station. Okay, so this is very black oil. Now, typically, aircraft owners and mechanics will change oil based on hours, and there's nothing wrong with that. Typically, it's like 50 hours. But a better indicator than hours is actually the color of the oil, because this is the bottom line right here. This is immediately telling you visually how many contaminants are in that oil. If you took this oil, this dirty oil, and you poured it, say you just poured it on this here and let it run down, you would see eventually perfectly clean oil would separate from these black contaminants. That oil is suspending contaminants, and those contaminants are coming from the combustion chamber. When gas and when fuel is going in that chamber, it's igniting. Carbon is being blown out the exhaust, but some of that carbon is going through the rings into the oil system. That's just the nature with aluminum aircraft engines. Aluminum expands and contracts, and they have to build larger tolerances or gaps. Things need to expand and contract. It's not like a modern car today. Nothing like it at all. Aircraft engines burn oil, and combustion contaminants get into the oil. You don't want to have your oil this black. It's acidic. It's affecting the oil's ability to lubricate. Your engine will not last as long with oil like this. So I want to show you something. Going to the maintenance into the engine section here, and this is where we can fill or drain our oil. Typically 9 quarts is my limit, because if you fill it to the capacity, which is 12 quarts, this oil will blow out the breather tube. For whatever reason, at 9 quarts, it stops going out that breather tube. So why would you put more than 9 and have that happen? Maybe some Comanches don't do it, but mine does, and so does this. So anyway, I'm going to drain some oil out, and then I'm going to add clean oil in. Okay. Now I've got 2 quarts. I've got 2 quarts of really dirty oil. Now watch, I'm going to add. That's actually pretty clean oil. Okay. You can see it's almost 9. Well, I'm going to drain it all out, and now I'm going to put it back into 9. Now you can barely even see it, and that's what really brand new clean oil looks like. Enjoy it, because after just one flight, that really brand new clean oil will be on its way out. That's just what it's like to fly airplanes. So what I would suggest you do is every time you fly the airplane, you certainly want to check your oil. Just note the color. If you're at 25 hours and that oil is black, change the oil. The way this Comanche engine works, we have 6 different cylinders in here. They're all different condition. Some people will have a Comanche that the oil does not get black right away, and other people will have it get black and everything in between. So here we go. We're done here. Awesome artwork again by Mio Puto. Okay. Here we are, and this is where I wanted to show you how to fill the Comanche up. Okay. Now we're going to add fuel. I'm going to go all the way up. There we go. Now I'm going to zoom in here. Really in. Now, see that little breather hole there? This is a properly filled Comanche tank. This is 30 gallons. Now, very typically, when I have somebody else fill the Comanche up, I'll go to a place and need to get gas, and they have a fuel truck, and they fuel themselves. More often than not, this is what I get. Let me zoom back in. This is the bottom of the filler neck, okay? They usually fill it right up to the bottom there. And it's just important to know that this is not 30 gallons, it's 27 gallons. So, or around 27 gallons. So, there's nothing wrong with flying with 27 gallons. Many times I'll just fly out. Well, just note, I have 27 gallons. You just don't want to make that mistake. But here, we simulate properly filling, very specific, to the Comanche. Okay. Let's keep going. Again, wheel chocks. And here we can tie down. And we also have our stall warning indicator here. This stall warning indicator illuminates an amber light in the cockpit. And what I do, I just flick it a couple times with my hand just to make sure it's not stuck. And then over here, we can put the pitot tube cover on if we want, or take it off. And we can check the pitot heat by pressing and holding on the pitot tube. See, this shows it's cold. So we'll go over to the controls and turn the pitot heat on, and we wait a few minutes and check again. And it's warm. And if you notice, there's a little heat blur effect above that pitot tube. All right, keep going. Landing light, this is where we check the landing light. We already checked that. And we're back. Okay. Let's do this again. There you go. And that's filled up. And we'll go back. I just like doing that. Okay. And we do the same thing. Drain, test, all good. And the same thing. Nice. And here. Actually, it seems a little... See, that's kind of... Let's check it. Okay. Well, see, this is what I mean. This flap, it's just a little more worn than the right one was before we fixed it. We felt nice, clean movement through that. We didn't feel any scraping or binding or hear any squeaking, but I would have my mechanic check this flap out before I go flying, just to be sure. Okay, let's move on. Here we have the static port. We want to make sure that there's not any dirt in there. Sometimes a bug nest can get in there. Sometimes somebody will wash the airplane, and before washing, they'll stick tape on there. They forget to take it off. You can check the very important all-moving stabilator and also your rudder to feel nice and tight. And you also have a hands-on baggage station. A medium suitcase, a heavy equipment bag, a toolbox, a small personal bag, and if you got another traveler, a very heavy suitcase. Well, I hope you enjoy what this kind of walk around brings to flight simulation. It allows you to touch and listen and really feel the entire inner workings of the aircraft before you go fly. And that's what doing a walk around is all about. So thank you for watching.